I'm on a 2,000-mile road trip from Houston to Portland in my all-electric Ford F-150 Lightning, which has brought me today to Santa Clara, California, here at the AmpUp headquarters. I'm gonna have the chance to speak with two veteran executives. We'll speak about interoperability, go-to-market and sales strategy, and my favorite, we're gonna play a game with them. So stay tuned for that. Now let's get this show on the road. I'm driving 2,198.2 miles in my fully electric Ford F-150 Lightning, leaving from right here in Houston, Texas to Portland, Oregon. I'm Anup Parikh. I'm the proud business owner of EV Charging, a national EV charging installer and service provider. This is my business in motion. Let's go.
I just want to be in the zone. You know, in the zone. I just want to be in the zone. I just want to be in the zone. I just want to be in the zone.
All right, well, what a pleasure this is. I'm sitting amongst former colleagues, OGs in the electric vehicle charging industry. We've got Dario Pagani, now Director of Marketing Communications at Autel, right?
That's right.
And you've been in the industry how long?
Started in 2015.
Okay.
So, it's been a minute. I'm trying to, try not to think about it because it ages me a bit, but yeah.
10 years is a long time, and I think obviously veterans of the industry are still a small number, but I guess it grows as time continues to go on. And then of course, Mike DiNucci, like I said, OG in sales, really built a lot of the sales team at ChargePoint, if not most of it, all of it. You've now progressed and you're big kahuna CRO at AmpUp. Anything else we should add to that?
No, it's great to be here with you, Anup and Dario, to get to reunite with friends. And when people ask me about my journey and my career in the EV space, when I originally interviewed at ChargePoint, before it was even called ChargePoint, it was still called Coulomb Technologies. Their original CEO interviewed me in 2008, summer of 2008, during the financial worldwide crisis, subprime mortgage and all that stuff. And he said, we really would like your help here. It's just 7 engineers and you would be the 8th employee and you could help us with sales and business development. And I said, great. What do you guys do? And he said, we make EV charging stations. And I said, that sounds awesome. What does EV stand for? And he laughed at me just like you just did. At the time, though, it wasn't as ridiculous of a question because I said to him, there aren't any electric vehicles in this country. There's not one that you can buy. We were still a couple of years away from the Leaf and the Tesla Model S coming out. So I've been around now for the better part of almost 2 decades in the space. And it's amazing to see the progress we've made.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, I think so many of us ChargePoint alum have gone out to pollinate the entire industry. We're now obviously all at different respective initiatives and companies. And really what I want to use this conversation for, and I had the tendency, like I said, to deviate, but I know we want to talk about interoperability.
Today's secret word is interoperability.
But here's something I just noticed in our outfit. So I feel like EV charging, tell me if I'm wrong, is anything but black and white. Is that a fair assessment?
All shades, correct.
I mean, is there, we'll get into it, but I feel like it's a lot of gray area.
That's right.
I swear to you, I'll speak to anyone that's outside the industry, it is not black and white. They don't know, hey, I used a slow charger. Well, define slow, what does that mean? Obviously with AmpUp and Autel, tell me how these two things pair up, right? I, in the industry, know Autel is a hardware maker. AmpUp, I believe to be a software provider. Why focus on one and then pair with partners, right?
Well, I mean, let's think back to where we all started in this space, which was ChargePoint at different times. But ChargePoint is a full stack solution. They make the hardware, they make the software, they provide the O&M, right? It would be as if Apple or Samsung not only made the phone, but then they also were the Verizon or the T-Mobile and made the network as well.
Yeah.
We know that that's not the case, right? So we agree with you, which is let's pick one lane and do that incredibly well. and then use our software and integrate it with partners that we trust and that we can go to market with confidence. So when we talk about interoperability, a lot of times people, I think, will make the mistake of calling it an industry standard or a technical protocol, but that's not really what it is. Interoperability or full OCPP compliance is really about two things: freedom of choice and peace of mind. When the customer or the site host is looking to pick something out, you don't want to shoehorn them into one particular type or flavor of charging station. Sure. You want to put them in a network or a software solution that provides all of their needs, and then give them all kinds of choices, whether it comes from a charging station that is level 2 with no screen that is a fleet application. Maybe it's a really tricked out, awesome level 2 station like the one we see behind us that has a screen and whatnot, all the way up to a super fast DC charger. Sure. To me, that's the real crux of interoperability. Choice and peace of mind.
And are you finding, with your time here at AmpUp, like customers, one, do they understand that's an option, that's a choice? Or are they like, oh wait, are you like these other full stack parties? Sure. Or do they say, hey, oh, you know what, that sounds interesting? So, I mean.
Well, I would say, I'll let Dario speak to this because, he spent his career in marketing and he's an expert at messaging. Yeah. What I would say is that it's still very much of a process of education. Correct. Right? You have to educate the customer. You have to evangelize to them what their choices are. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's extremely fair, especially since companies like ChargePoint have been pioneers in the industry and have created a lot of the space and have planted the first flags. Mike actually personally planted a few of the first flags in the Bay Area, for instance. Like that station downtown San Jose, I believe that was
still
one
there.
Of the first ones.
ChargePoint station number 1,
that's right.
City Hall, still there.
Exactly. So, when obviously, we're still in a fairly young industry, even though it feels like we've been in it for a long time. So whenever we go and talk to customers, first of all, we have to meet them where they are. It's like, okay, what are your business goals? What are you trying to achieve by putting EV charging, and what are you trying to match as far as dwell times and vehicle types and things of that nature. So as a hardware manufacturer, at Autel we say that customer success is a team sport. That's actually one of my favorite sayings. And a team sport not only within Autel, but within our partner ecosystem. So when you think about AmpUp, you think about service partners in the field. When you think about resellers in the field, we're all driving in the direction of customer success. And as people may not know this, but AmpUp and Autel, while we've been working together for a little while now, when it comes just to Autel, our DNA is in automotive diagnostics.
So, I wanted to ask about that. Yeah.
Exactly. So when you think about that, our second nature is to look at a vehicle, understand what's going on with that vehicle, how it's interacting with our stations, any kind of fault code that may be throwing up during the charging session or any anomaly in the charging session. It helps us inform a platform like AmpUp of that deeper type of information and diagnostics that it makes the driver experience better, the site host experience better, and overall increases uptime.
Right. Well, and I was going to say, because respectively, both of your companies, naturally, this whole industry is all about partnership. You have to, in my opinion, to succeed. What specifically attracted your two companies to date, for lack of a better term? I mean, both of y'all have choices. Your companies can go out and say, we're going to put software on this product. And then you could say, hey, we're going to configure our hardware to accept multiple software. Is there something specific about the AmpUp Autel partnership that takes, that partnership is better than, say, another one? Or what brought y'all
there
together?
There definitely is. So, Anup, the way that we think about it is we have tried to build an extremely robust, comprehensive, elegant, sleek solution that works. Above everything else, it has to be reliable, and the stations have to work when the driver parks and plugs in. Sure. So at AmpUp, we're very proud of the fact, you hear a lot of metrics around uptime. Stations are up.
Right.
The Tesla supercharger is 99% uptime. Okay. We like to measure uptime, but we also like to measure session success rate. Not just how often is the station working, but how often does the driver successfully complete a session?
Sure.
Initiate it and complete it.
Okay.
We have
And so those are different?
uptime and session success rate are very different.
Okay. So
uptime is just the station's there and it's working.
Got it.
Session success rate is somebody pulled up and actually initiated and then were able to complete a charging session. Sure. We have an industry-leading 99% session success rate. So we believe that our software is incredibly robust and incredibly reliable. So what we were looking for was a hardware partner that meets us in that place, one that is incredibly robust, incredibly reliable, sleek, elegant, beautiful looking from a design perspective, but also provides a full suite of choices, everything from a fairly simplistic, very inexpensive level 2 station, all the way up to the fastest of the fast DC chargers.
Right.
Autel has all of those things. They're rugged, they're reliable, so we feel like it's almost like chocolate and peanut butter. Two great tastes that taste great together. Right. I'm not sure who's chocolate
or peanut butter and jelly? Okay.
It's peanut butter jelly time. Peanut butter jelly time. Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? There you go. There you go. There you
That works
Mike
too.
has chocolate and peanut butter.
Hey, I mean, two great tastes that taste great together. Autel and AmpUp, they work beautifully in concert with one another.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. And then of course there are what could be considered the intangibles. You have to work together. We have extensive testing that needs to be completed in the background. So our teams have to work really well together. Our sales teams have to work really well together. Our executive teams have to work really well together. At any level of the organization, our marketing teams have to work well together in order to be able to go in front of the customer and not only convey the quality of our solution, but also, execute when it comes to project execution, design execution, and then continued support for that customer, throughout the lifetime of the stations and the solution, and hopefully beyond in the second generation of that relationship.
Right. And I think, Mike had pointed to just kind of the sexiness really of your product. And I feel like for me, I've always, maybe now we're at a different stage, but I would say pre-COVID, like you think stainless steel or just like metallic look, it always felt like the future. And so I wonder if that's what prompted Autel's look and feel. So I actually had recommended a friend reached out for a home charger. I was like, I think at the time, 2 former colleagues also were at Autel, and they said, we got a great home charger. It sells on Amazon for this price. And it's worked great. And I remember looking like it looks sleek. Would you say of all your product lineup, this actually came to mind, is in all your product lineup, what is by volume, and I think I know the answer because of where the use case is, but what's the best selling Autel unit?
So I would say as of late, there's been an explosion in multifamily residential. So our level 2, kind of public level 2, commercial level 2 stations have been doing extremely well. They diverge slightly from what you see over here. This is a unit that also fits very well with multifamily residential. Okay. But it's more for like a assigned parking type of situation. Okay. When you look at kind of like out in the public level 2, we have something that's like a dual port level 2, an 80 amp unit. So it really depends on the use case. I would say level 2 AC stations in general are doing extremely well because the market itself is demanding for more of that.
Got it. As you know, I'm pleased about that because my bread and butter is multifamily. So obviously partnering even with Autel myself is just like, I look forward to having more of that out in the field. Here, let me reference it.
You know how hard that environment can be, right? To fit in multifamily residential. There's a high diversity in property type, in deployment, in parking configurations.
Oh, right. Yeah, and to your point about deeded and dedicated spaces versus shareable.
That's right.
A lot of people, even to this day, I'm really shocked about how they're putting in a couple for share versus, and I tell people, to me, the analogy is, by the way, I call you the king of analogies. I think me and Dario agree on this. And so when you said the T-Mobile thing, I was like, I've always wanted to ask you, how do you compare interoperability? What's your analogy for it? And you nailed it, because I usually use the cell phone one, by the way. But I was gonna say, I think in multifamily, it's like, are you gonna give a washer and dryer, put out 3 of them and say, hey, building of 200 people, I hope you can share these 3 washer dryers. It's why I moved to in-unit washer dryers, which is why I feel like dedicated chargers make sense, but that message hasn't fully gotten out. Fair?
Absolutely.
And the key is having a solution that gives you the flexibility of deploying, whether it's assigned parking or shared parking, or, you could be changing that approach daily down the road. When I'll give you an instance, my last apartment complex I lived in, we started with shared washer and dryer, and then by the end of when I left, we had in-unit.
Okay.
So, you have to have that level of flexibility, and I feel that, at Autel, we definitely, when we deploy with AmpUp, we have that flexibility for the customer to decide how they're going to be today versus how they're going to grow, in 5-6 years from now.
Right. Do you think, I think it's intriguing that I'm seeing all these, again, alum around the industry go to these other industries. Do you feel like people have a place in how these partnerships are formed? I mean, I'm looking at you both, like, obviously you know each other, so it's like, hey, Mike, hey, Dario, like, pick up the phone. Why don't our two companies work together? Do you think that has a lot to do with how these partnerships form versus like, hey, your product's great, let's get into the engineering and the nitty gritty, versus like, hey, I know this person's really good at their job. Sure. They can help us. We can help them. Is that?
Most definitely. I think it speeds things along, and it also makes things very smooth. We're all ChargePoint alum, and as we mentioned, we have ChargePoint alum spread throughout the industry. We've spread like mold or fungus or maybe a spider's web, right? You name any company in this space, chances are one of the three of us is going to know somebody or multiple people at that company. So it is very helpful for us to begin conversations. You're not reaching out to somebody cold on LinkedIn. Chances are you either know somebody or you know somebody, and I can reach out and say, hey, Anup, I see you're connected directly. I need to get in touch. And that's really very helpful. So the old aphorism of it's all about who you know is incredibly true in this space. The EV space, as Dario pointed out, is still somewhat in its infancy.
Yeah.
I know we've been doing this for almost a couple decades now, but it's still, I think, a nascent sort of industry and space and ecosystem. I like to say that I think the EV charging and EV world is about where the mobile phone world was. We used that analogy before. It's about where the mobile phone industry was in the mid to late 90s.
So do you think, does that mean that the next 10 years EVs are, and EV charging is now ubiquitous? Because that's a almost 20-year timeline, and I feel like
Absolutely.
2000 to 2020 was leaps. So that's a 20-year
For
window.
sure. So
I'm going to hold you to your prophecy.
Well,
here.
think about this, Anup. If
I'm tired of
if the if the EV space is where the mobile phone industry was in 1997,
yeah,
the mobile phone industry didn't reach its true form, its true evolution, its apotheosis until the iPhone was released in 2007.
You're right.
That was 10 years later. I hope we're not 10 years away from EVs reaching its final evolution, but we still have a lot of work to do because, as we all know, the infrastructure, there's still EVs flooding into the space, and the attach rate of how many chargers there are available for these EVs is not keeping pace. So all of us in the industry has a lot of work to do to build out that infrastructure.
So I'm coming from Texas. Obviously, I drove here some 2,000 miles away. The last time I was in the Bay Area was, for leisure, was like before COVID. And so as this market has grown over the last 5 years, more people, younger people got into EVs. That's the only thing they wanted. The investor kind of scene blew up. All these companies bubbled up. So I'm thinking back home in Texas, man, the Bay Area must have chargers everywhere. I literally thought for this trip, I'm coming to film every grocery store, every office park with like 20 L2s.
And then what you actually found
is that this place is almost not as, like, it's
unchanged.
It's unchanged. But what are we missing? Is it messaging? Is it sheer workforce numbers of people? There's not enough people representing this industry. But then to represent people, you need sales and revenue. So like, what's going on?
Yeah, there are a few factors there, right? I think that you last time you saw was pre-COVID. I think we did hit a little bit of a pause in some of the deployments, especially when it comes to workplace. During COVID, I think that was like, a big deal for us, when we first started. Workplace was our big vertical.
half of ChargePoint's revenue.
Exactly, it was half of our business. And so, after that, I think gave people a pause. Is like, do I need all these office, all these office spaces? And I think we're getting now back into deploying, right? There are two factors right now. One is the explosion of multifamily, because you mentioned that it's a big area of growth for the industry. The second thing, now you're hitting that first generation chargers in workplaces. Now we are more worried about, updating those,
Right.
rather than adding. And maybe as we update, we add more, right? But you're still dealing with the same locations, the same places that had them in 2018, they had them today.
That are now end of life
Exactly.
or close to end of life.
And I do believe that once we are past that chore, or as we are getting more comfortable with that chore of going and updating that existing infrastructure, we will find, and we are finding more opportunities to plant more flags, because obviously, with more EVs on the road, more people considering EVs, and more people going back to offices, it's no longer am I going to keep this office? But it's more like, okay, what does the next iteration of my office look like?
You'll hear commentary. People say this industry is littered with too many hardware manufacturers. And it's like, you don't need that many. So I'm curious, I think I read, maybe it was AmpUp, it was like we can partner with, or maybe there's 125 hardware manufacturers out there. What do you think about, I'm curious from a analogy standpoint, where else does that exist in commerce, like in the business world? Who is producing? I think about this TV that's right in front of us. It's like, LG, Samsung, Sony. So there's, I don't know, let's even put it at 50. How many hardware makers should be in EV charging? Is there an optimal number? I mean, is the market force going to dictate? No, it's actually just, you need 17. That's enough.
I don't think there's a number. I think that there's always room for good products.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think anybody wants to put a cap on that.
Okay.
And if you think about other products like TVs, where do you shop for TVs? You shop at Best Buy, you shop on Amazon, whatever. What you look at customer reviews, no?
Oh yes.
Right. So when you think about EV charging, if as long as you have great companies with great products, you're always going to have great reviews, and then you have a wealth of choices as a customer, and that's really what we want to be at, in a place where a customer has a choice for hardware, software, and services. So when I go and shop for anything, I look at reviews. The bad products will sort themselves out. That's my belief.
And I think you hit on something that I think is underestimated in this industry: service. The success I found is, do I pick up the phone? Do I respond to a customer inquiry or complaint? And I can tell you, I remember that the homeowner I told you we installed a Autel home charger at, I was able to push a warranty request, because I think his something just stopped working. Mm-hmm. And your CEO, Michelle, right? CEO, Michelle? CRO, right? Got on the email thread and was able to expedite a shipment of a new product. And I think customers who had first interaction to a new industry, that's so huge. To be like, hey, this company takes care of me. Then why would you look elsewhere after that? Because you bought a product, they did what they said they're going to do, they exceeded expectations. So I feel like that's, to me, what sets companies apart in this moment in the industry.
You're absolutely right, Anup. And there's a very old saying in sales that the hardest sale to get is not the first sale. It's the second sale. People aren't going to come back and buy from you again and again unless they have a good experience the first time around. So what you're talking about is absolutely critical. No product is foolproof. No product is bulletproof. You're going to have issues. The question is, how does the company that provided that product or service react or respond when there is a need for customer service or customer support? So it's one of the things that we pride ourselves on, and Autel prides themselves on, is there's this crucial third part of this ecosystem. There's the hardware, there's the software, but then there's the O&M, the operation and maintenance of the station itself and the software. And when there are problems, how do those things get dealt with? So our mindset, and Autel is a great partner for us in this case, we really believe strongly in trying to do as much remote diagnostics as we possibly can. And if we can avoid having to do a truck roll, a tier 1 support, if we can handle it remotely through a soft reset or a hard reset of the station, that's obviously far preferable. But if we do have to step in and replace some hardware or whatever it might be, we need to show the customer that we're willing to do that. And that is a really critical piece. of getting a long-term relationship and partnership. And I often will tell customers, I'm not interested in selling you one charging station once. I want to sell you 100 charging stations over the next 5 years. Yeah. But you're not going to buy those from me unless everything goes smoothly without a hitch the first time around.
I agree. Yeah.
And one last thought on that. A lot of that remote diagnostics, a lot of that, sort of the ecosystem that I'm talking about is born out of rigorous testing. So we have made it a point of pride to not only go through all of the testing that is required to become fully OCPP compliant, we integrate our software on every piece of Autel hardware, make sure that it's validated, it's certified, and it's bulletproof. But not only that, we don't stop with just the OCPP testing. Our engineers together do 60 other tests. On top of that, we do everything we can to stress test this and attempt to break the linkage between software and hardware. And when we're not successful, when it is able to withstand whatever we throw at it, we know that it's going to be really rugged and reliable in the field.
So you said it, and I'm going to make you define it. For all the real estate people that we're ultimately trying to do business with at the end of the day, tell me what OCPP stands for.
Open Charge Point Protocol.
And it's important because?
It is intended to be an industry standard that creates interoperability. My software works on your hardware will use my software, but you can, and there are companies in this space that I won't name that might be a full stack integration that might claim that they're OCPP compliant, but I would challenge you to go and find one of those pieces of hardware in the marketplace that's running a different software than the one that was sold on it, right? It's very similar to if you want to run Android on your iPhone, can you do that? Absolutely not.
Right.
That's the analogy. It's a locked end-to-end, closed system end-to-end. OCPP is intended to create interoperability.
Go Mike, go Mike.
It's almost like, I'll use another analogy, Anup, because I know you like them. Think of the star system for the ATM. If you're a B of A customer, can you get cash out of a Chase ATM? Absolutely. Why? They're interoperable, right? Now, they might charge you $3 to get your $100, and you can choose whether you want to pay that service fee or not.
Right.
If you are in a situation where you need to get your money fast, then you maybe pay that $3 surcharge. If not, then you go and you find your B of A ATM and take the money out there where they won't charge you anything. But that interoperability is really crucial in making sure that the customers all get what they need when they need it. So OCPP is all about interoperability between hardware and software providers.
And I'll add something to that. We all hear the old saying that, well, if something goes wrong, you don't know who to blame. If you have a full stack solution, you always have somebody to call.
One throat to choke.
Right. And I'd like actually to talk a little bit about that. We're talking about the extra 60 tests that go on between, Autel and AmpUp on top of the regular CPP, work. And I can honestly say that there isn't a single scenario that could possibly happen outside of very small corner cases that we have not seen during testing. So, the whole thing is that, I don't know if it's the hardware provider or the software provider, I don't know what's wrong. That's typically if you have, two players that are not really good at working together. So when you run into something like that, there's something wrong with that relationship. That's why, something like Autel and AmpUp stands out, because there's a seamless collaboration when it comes to this type of fault diagnostics and the resolution.
We've probably seen it before.
We have definitely seen it
in the lab.
So there is never a guess.
And so y'all are owning up to who's the
There's
responsible party.
there's no guesswork.
Right, because you're like, hey, our testing shows we're 100% on this.
That's
then
right.
it's like AmpUp.
We not only can diagnose the problem, but we know exactly what's needed to fix it and whose issue it is.
So I actually had a question on similar topic, is actually with communication. So doing these turnkey installations between a hardware and a software provider, who's responsible for the communication, right? So a station goes down and it's a communication error. I actually don't know. Is that left to be software, or is that a hardware? Or maybe it's both, like it could be on either side, I don't know.
So typically we don't want to leave a customer stranded or having to guess. So one of the integral parts of our software is that we give the site host the ability to not only describe the station itself, where it's located, the address, any instructions, maybe, the address might be an 8-story parking garage, right? And station number 15 might be on the 5th floor near the elevator, right? You also, though, in our software, can say this Autel station was installed by this installation contact at Jones & Sons Electricians. Here's their phone number, here's the person's name, here's their email address. Now, we are monitoring it. We're able to probably see what the fault might be, perhaps even before the site host or the station owner sees it themselves. But if they happen to see it and we need them to get involved or contact the person that installed it, then all of that stuff is actually captured and saved, because who knows? We might all have moved on. The station site host might have moved on. There might be a different facilities or real estate person now responsible for it. But all of that is we've tried to capture it all to make it as seamless and easy as possible for that site host or that station owner.
A reality is that we have gotten to a point in the industry where good hardware as redundant communication systems. So, like for instance, for Autel, we can work via cellular, we can work through Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, right? You can run a CAT cable to it. When you have a mission critical application, obviously you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket when it comes to communication, because that's how you get the data back to the cloud. That's how you diagnose the station. That's how you manage the station. So you want to make sure that you don't only have redundancy in technology or how the communication happens, but also, if one station is down, that duty, moves on to the next one. So you don't have to have all the stations connected, simultaneously. There will always be that one that takes that duty on. But if that station is down, that automatically gets shifted to something else. So the resiliency and the redundancy of this type of installation has gone, much more sophisticated in the last decade.
So I have a question. Where we're at in the calendar year, incentives are set to expire currently for a $7,500 tax credit on EVs. There's also some incentives towards EV infrastructure ending. So is it a hurdle or an opportunity? Dario just spoke about, I mentioned how it's been bumpy and there's been a lot of policy things and a lot of other factors, but is this a hurdle or opportunity? And the reason I say opportunity is people have said, well, it might push people to go out and get these cars. So now the, supply or usership of EVs is high. And then to your point again, there's a low attachment rate of charging ports. So how does this look for you? What do you, Dario?
Yeah, actually, I was going to leave this to Mike, because when he started selling EV charging, it was actually before any of these incentives existed. So he has a very unique, vision of that type of scenario.
So the way I think about it is, at various times there have been no incentives, no funding, a lot of funding, depending on what type of administration you had in the White House at the federal level. States get involved. Utility companies get involved with incentive programs. I'm of the belief that the EV industry needs to stand on its own, with or without incentives. $7,500 rebate on buying a car, that's wonderful. But that was also intended to help offset the fact that you were paying a serious premium for an electric vehicle. For example, Nissan Leaf, when it came out in 2009, 10, at the end of the 2000s, that decade, it was a $18,000 car that they were having to charge $38,000 for because the batteries were so expensive. Sure. A $7,500 rebate helped to defray some of that extra premium, right? The cost of the vehicles have now come down considerably, so that the beautiful Ford F-150 Lightning that you drove here today, 15 years ago would have been $25,000 more expensive. Yeah. The cost has come down because the batteries have become less expensive, more affordable, more efficient. Right. And the car companies have also made the investment in their assembly lines. They've put in the billions of dollars to build electric vehicles. So I'm not saying that the lack or disappearance of incentives and funding is a good thing necessarily, However, it did create an enormous amount of confusion. The NEVI program was not well understood, nor was it well administered, nor was it well executed, right? Now it's been canceled. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, they were claiming that it was going to pump billions and billions of dollars into infrastructure. The end result was not that case. So the way I look at it is the industry itself, buying EVs and installing infrastructure to support them, needs to stand on its own. And I think that we can step into some of these collaborations with utility companies where they're able to provide some of the funding that used to come from the federal and state governments.
Can we get some of those policy, like the utilities to operate like here in California, back in Texas? Because we've had almost no incentives my entire career in Texas other than Austin Energy. But I think that's a fair point. Like, I have seen programs that aren't the state, that aren't federal, but they're still putting out incentives. Obviously, a lot in the Northeast, here in California, and even like
in the
nonprofits.
Southeast, Georgia Power, owned by the Southern Company. There are opportunities to do this. However, not all utilities are created equal, right? As you said, you're a resident of Texas. There is some understanding and support for it. And even in California, where we're sitting right now, you have some utility companies that support this type of infrastructure program and they provide funding. Others want to have nothing to do with it. So I do think that it's a maturation process. It's an evolution over time. We will see more of this going forward. But again, you know, the EVs continue to come. The charging stations need to continue to be installed. And you asked before, why hasn't the California charging landscape changed materially since you left here? And I think a lot of the answer is some of the folks who control the parking spaces, the landlords and the site hosts, they don't realize that they've got an obligation to put in charging stations, or they haven't had a vocal, loud EV driver like yourself to come in and say, I won't shop here, I won't live here, I won't populate here, or I won't do business here unless I have a place to charge my vehicle.
So that is the perfect thing, because just about how you said their obligation, but I would say, fortunately or unfortunately, what this market is telling me is like, we can't even tell them it's your duty. It's what is the financial opportunity? And I guess
they want ROI, right?
Right. And I get it now. Like, more than ever, I've been pushed in the corners like, listen, if you're not going to tell me how to make money, I'm not interested. But then to your point, I have been pushing from the bottom up and speaking to renters. I'm like, hey, it's on you. You're saying your apartment doesn't have it. They don't know you need it.
That's right.
You need to go say, because I tell residents, you realize who's paying their bills, right? You are paying the property owner's bill. Right. You have a right to ask for charging, which obviously was, I guess, a law in the condo space or something like that in different states, right to charge. But
Yeah,
I think, so maybe that really brings me to something I really want to talk about, which is go to market. So again, we all were hanging out pre-COVID. It's been a long time. I'm kind of curious because I feel the landscape in sales has changed a lot. And so I'm kind of curious from both of your perspectives, you controlling typically we worked together, the funnel, and then you overseeing sales teams. So what do you think has changed? Because I'll tell you what I saw it as. Big tech software is like, we're going to hire 100 SDRs. We're going to hit the phones. We're going to crank out these emails, and it's a numbers game. I would say that me as a consumer and as a business owner, I don't know that still works. And I think most people have come to that conclusion, especially in big tech in the Bay Area. So tell me how you both are, respectively in your own companies, handling and going to market. Dario, I'll start with you. Like, obviously as a hardware, I'm thinking, do you have many people inside selling, or is this all a play to, we manufacture, that's what we're good at. We let our partners get our product out to market, and then really just how you're approaching sales. Is it marketing campaigns? Is it ads, videos? I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's fair point. Actually, I wanted to bridge the previous conversation about incentives programs, because obviously, when incentives are available, it's a big area of focus for go-to-market.
Yeah.
So when you think about Autel, the way that, and we said that before, customer success is a team sport at Autel. That includes our channel ecosystem, right? Includes the AmpUp team, includes our resellers and distributors in the field. And I think that, where we were obviously in 2016, 2015, even before that, the people that came to the EV charging industry, that came from the software space, that came from the automotive space, lots of people that went and became salespeople in EV charging came from the software as a service space, for instance. And you're right, it was a numbers game. I'm going to call 1,000 people. I'm going to get 100 people to pick up the phone. Hopefully, I'm going to get maybe 10 conversations. I may get an opportunity. So that was it. At the same time, today, when you look at the way the project develops in EV charging now, it is not as much of a push and shove. It's more of a let us show you how to do this. So you think about incentive being lack of incentive being a deterrent. The permitting process, for the most part, is a huge deterrent to people. So having somebody who can come to you and help you navigate the landscape, make your project what we call shovel ready, right? Which is also a big area of focus now for incentive programs. We're talking about multifamily. There's a great incentive program currently in the state of California called Communities in Charge, which has been administered by CalSTART. And the big area of focus for that program, something that was not true 5 years ago, is shovel-ready projects. So something that is designed, permitted, and ready to go. It's not first come, first serve. It's not about who raises their hand first. It's about who gets their act together, the best. And then we'll evaluate all the sites and make sure that the money is awarded in the right way. So when you think about the sales motion and the go-to-market, it's about meeting people where they are. So it's about, okay, you are obviously not in the EV charging business as a customer. Let me introduce you to Anup. It's fantastic at navigating the incentive programs and the permitting process, and then we'll be supporting, from the hardware and software standpoint to make sure the project comes together the right way. All the features that the customer needs are delivered the appropriate way, and the timeline overall fits the bill, because, if you're spending double the time that you're supposed to selling a project, if the customer is spending double the time in delivering the project to the customer, to perhaps the tenant or somebody that they're working with, if they're a building management company, for instance, it's money loss, and we don't want that.
That's if you're in an apartment in California, is that SoCal, NorCal, or all of the CalSTART?
All of California.
All of California. So I'm gonna have to go chase some of that on behalf of clients.
You should.
And I think people in this market are realizing you said it earlier, is like office space was big. I remember not being part of that space when I was at ChargePoint. It's like, I don't really get it. Like, one, because I was remote always. And then two, I was like, apartments where I struggled. And so I've always known in my head, I was like, just in my ordinary visionary self, I was just like, multifamily is where it's at, because it's where you sleep. Every day, everybody's going home to some bed, whether that's a single family home, multifamily. So I can appreciate it. So if you're in an apartment, obviously you need to look into the CalSTART program and Communities in Charge. Do you know how much money is in that behind that program?
Yeah, absolutely. So this particular window opportunity lasts until January 9th, and it is $56.5 million available for multifamily specifically in California. So it's utility agnostic, zip code agnostic. It does put some emphasis on underserved communities. So if you are in that particular, zoning, then you're going to have some additional perks from the program. The one important thing to mention is it does favor shovel-ready projects. So don't just raise your hand as soon as you can. Just get it ready, get it done properly, and you'll have a great opportunity to get that project done.
And to build on that point, Anup, we talked earlier about incentives going away, some administrations being more friendly than others when it comes to incentives or funding or, public works monies. A program like what Dario's talking about, Communities in Charge, that's not coming from the federal or state government. It's
Right.
$56 million
That's so
that
much.
you can apply for between now and January 9th, and it's available, as Dario said, to all multifamily locations, which I think is fantastic. So as you see kind of one door close, other doors open.
So then I'm curious, is that hardware like that, would you call it a grant, or what is it? It's an incentive? Like, so if someone's
It's a funding program.
Funding program.
So it's a, you often will see, even if it's not a utility, sometimes you'll see an air quality management district, for example, one here in Northern California where we're sitting, the BAAQMD, the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. They also will come out with funding programs with millions of dollars available, and you have to apply. You have to, as Dario said, they typically need to be shovel ready. You can't say, well, this project was finished 2 years ago, here's all my receipts, reimburse me. But when you are ready and your project or your site or your location is ready for this type of project, then you can go and apply for that, and there are pockets and buckets of money all over the place. And one of the things that Autel and AmpUp pride ourselves on doing is helping those customers look for pockets of funding in places they might not have thought to look.
That's what you want in a great partner. So, short answer, do you know if it's where my head goes is this paying for hardware only and software, or is it paying for infrastructure, or is it paying for potentially all? So I tell clients in multifamily, hey, budget 10,000 a parking space level 2. Mm-hmm. Do you think it's covering the full spectrum, or is that program for, hey, only make ready and then you pay, like, do you know?
It goes towards total project value.
Wow.
Including labor.
Okay, so for those watching in California, own multifamily, do not miss this opportunity. I'm gonna try to help as best as I can. Dario, what do you see Autel doing going forward?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we're going through is filling in some of the gaps that we had in our portfolio. So you have seen the launch of the megawatt charger. Mm-hmm. You have seen the launch of a new 80 amp charging platform, a new 50 amp charging platform that include the plug and charge standards. So it's really about staying that half a step in front of customer demand. Because if you're launching something too early when there's no demand, obviously it's a bit of a wasted opportunity.
Right.
But if you're coming to market with the right product at the right time, that's invaluable. And that's something that will keep separating, again, good market execution from kind of efficient market go to market motion. Other than that, there are it's mostly about applications. Like you have certain vehicles showing up in more of the broader fleet applications, especially in heavy duty. So that's why now you're seeing a lot of megawatt announcements, right? Because the vehicles are starting to show up, those depots are starting to get built. Right. Therefore, hardware companies like ourselves are finally ready to show that product to market. Not because we didn't have it ready before, but there was no demand for it. And the same thing will be for emerging technologies like wireless and things like pantograph is very niche for a specific application. Right. Will we do that? Absolutely. But obviously we have to work with the customers at understanding their requirements and delivering the right solution.
And Mike, where's AmpUp head in the next couple of months or next year?
Well, I'll tell you, Anup, as a software company, we always try and avoid that big nasty word that starts with O, obsolescence. We never want to strand our customers. So our engineering team, our product team, they're always thinking about what we're going to do, features, whole new sets of possibly industry-specific products that we can come out with. But we want our customers to always feel like they're future-proofed. Yeah. They're never going to get left behind. It's not going to be obsolete. Because our software, as it improves, it will automatically get pushed out OTA, as we say, over the air, right? So one of the areas that we see coming down the road is OCPP standard 2.0.1. We're going to be ready for that and fully compliant in 2.0.1, which is going to allow us to do things like V to G charging, right? Everything we've talked about up until now has been G to V, grid to vehicle. What about during times of peak demand? Can you turn that around and have the vehicle supply the grid with some relief? That's something that we're going to have in the future. It's something that plug and charge is another feature that 2.0.1 is going to allow us to do. So the way we think about it is we want to, as Dario has said very well, meet the customer where they are, right? If today they don't need V2G charging and they only need 10 level 2 charging stations, well, in 3 or 4 years, they might need 5 times that number of charging stations, and they also might need a richer set of features than they're using today. Our system is incredibly comprehensive, and it has tons of features that you may not necessarily need or use at the moment, but you can toggle those on at any time. For example, reservations or tier-based or time of use pricing. Right. All of that stuff exists. They might not need it yet. It might be a little too sophisticated for their needs, but it's always there for them. So we want to make sure that they have what they need before they even know that they need it.
And you said you did something there that actually takes us right into how I want to wrap up this conversation, which is, I don't know if you know you did this. So in sales, there's a hook, and you just did it. You said, there's this big word that starts with an O, and then you had my attention, like, yeah, Mike, tell me, what is that word? I didn't know where you're going with that. So I actually want to play a game with both of you. So this whole trip, I've been traveling with my, younger videographer that I've been traveling the country with, and in 14 days, I've learned a lot about TikTok and how I asked about go-to-market and new sales playbooks. And all of that to me is a tie-in of how I'm seeing younger generations get sold to, connect with sales messages. So I'm gonna ask you guys to basically do something what I call pitch talk. And I've been focusing a lot on World Cup next year. Here in the Bay Area, it's actually one of the US host cities to World Cup. Mm-hmm. So I'm really trying to target places that both your respective products can excel at, right? The software, I'm really targeting hotels, restaurants, need robust, rugged hardware. So I'm gonna actually show you. We shot this last night. We're basically gonna ask the audience here who did it best, and you're gonna copy my lead, and then we're gonna throw it to the folks watching to see. Let me turn the volume on, take it off Bluetooth. All right.
Bitch, I'm stylish. Black top, big t-shirt, Billy.
Hotel owners, don't get caught off guard. World Cup is less than a year away, which means electric vehicle drivers are showing up to your property, but only if you have electric vehicle charging stations. Don't have them? Contact EV Charging. We'll help you install them and come up with a play to make sure we increase room night bookings, revenue, and your profits. I'll see you next summer. So I'd like you guys to each, it's not a dance, we're kind of past that part of TikTok. It's a lot of marketing out there. So what do you think, you game for it?
Let's do it.
All right, so let's go check out your pitch talk.
All right. Hey, in 2026, the eyes of the world are going to be on us as we host the World Cup. Every country's going to be coming to try and score. Make sure you don't miss your opportunity to score by providing seamless, easy to use charging stations that simply work when drivers need it. So talk to Pangea Charging about AmpUp powered Autel stations and you'll score during the World Cup.
World Cup of Soccer is coming to North America, and we have a lot of people coming to town. They're going to be looking for places to stay, good eats and cold brews, and guess what? EV charging as well. So if you're looking for an EV charging partner that will be around for you, call up Autel Energy with our partners at AmpUp and Pangea Charging.
Guys and gals, all of the industry, whether you're in the industry or watching from another industry and want to learn more about EV charging, these are true veterans and experts in the industry. I want you to go follow Dario and Dario Pagani on LinkedIn. Same with Mike DiNucci. Find them on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way to connect, is my guess.
Yeah.
And now soon TikTok. Do this in one take, Mike.
Action. No pressure.
World Cup is coming to
Yeah, when you catch it, kind of like you're like stumbling for it. It's kind of like caught off guard.
Hey, in 2026, the World Cup is coming here. The eyes of the world are going to be on us.
World Cup is coming to North America. You're a business owner, restaurant, hotel, any kind of parking lot where people could come to.
Every team is going to be looking to score. Are you ready?
Maybe people will be looking for a good meal or a cold brew. They're going to be looking, guess what, for EV charging. Are you ready for that?
Do you have control of a parking lot? Do you have a restaurant, a hotel, a stadium? People want to charge their cars.
So if you're looking for an EV charging partner that will be around for you, call up Autel Energy with our partners at AmpUp and Pangea Charging.
Don't miss your scoring opportunity. Make sure that you have EV charging ready at your facility, ease of use, availability, and seamless charging.
Got you covered at Autel Energy with our partners at AmpUp and Pangea Charging. Chargers that work.
Give them a chance. Don't miss your scoring opportunity look to Pangea Charging to set you up with AmpUp powered Autel charging stations, and you'll win also.
Next stop, Portland, Oregon, the climax of my road trip and my final executive interview. Enjoy the beautiful views of the Pacific Northwest as I chat with Matt Teskey, founder of the ChargeWay mobile app. You'll hear about his professional journey before ChargeWay and what inspired him to create the app that makes EV trip planning as easy as red, blue, and green. This episode is sure to change how you think about electricity as a fuel. Stay tuned for this insightful conversation amidst the backdrop of beautiful Lake Trillium. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this.